good morning, good evening, good afternoon, good second breakfast, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to the Bonafide Experience podcast. I'm your host, Kyle, but most people just call me Boona. Welcome back. We are back for 2 weeks in a row. It makes me very, very excited. There was a period of time, for those of y'all who are just tuning in, where I was not creating for about a month, or there were very large gaps in between episode drops. A lot of personal stuff going on, a lot of challenging life stuff. So for those of you who are returning, and for those who have stuck around, I genuinely appreciate that from the bottom of my heart. And a huge shout out to the Patreons who subscribed back in, I believe it was April, and are still with me today. I really appreciate you guys so much. So thank you, thank you, thank you. This week's episode, the guest that I have on, his name is Ben Strauss. Ben is a landscape photographer in Colorado, and is a photographer ultimately around the West Coast. By day, he's an aerospace engineer. Just also had a recent newborn, which you'll see in the video. And this man somehow manages to have a great day job, go hard in the paint with his passion of landscape photography, edits, and ultimately fuses all of his learnings and passions together to create some of the most beautiful artwork that I've ever seen. I won't spoil what that is. You're just going to have to listen to the episode to find out what that is. There's even images, there's screen shares. I put some new stuff in the podcast this week. And I'll also put that information in the show notes below. So if you're wanting to just vibe, if you're wanting to just hang out, and if you want to hear hear a really great story, you are in the right spot. Let's go ahead and get started with the show. And I think we're live. Good morning, Ben. How are you?
Good. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good. Good. I went and grabbed some coffee, and I realized I forgot my wallet, and a little bit about an hour ago, and I was mildly freaking out. But then I remembered, I have that Google Pay on my phone, and so I just, it's saved me a good 20-minute trip back home to go get
awesome.
That done.
Well, one of these days you'll be able to pay with your MetaMask wallet, I think, which will be
no
sweet.
Kidding me. I've already seen some examples of that happening, where there was a guy who used a public restroom and paid in Ethereum, and he paid in it was 0.001. He's like, it's way overpriced, but the fact that you're able to do this is pretty incredible.
Yeah, I think I would do it if someone let me.
Yeah, when you think of terms in Ethereum over fiat, it doesn't seem like much.
Oh yeah, I think it's definitely skewed my perspective of the US dollar. Being in this space, just the volumes that we trade in and the things that we buy for thousands of dollars that you would never put your own US dollar money into. Who would ever buy a JPEG for that much money? But
I mean, we would. It was funny. The D's was actually holding a space yesterday, and they were looking at some of the token frames and some of the physical displays for NFTs, and he's just like, oh yeah, it's only 1 ETH. They're like, yeah, okay, it's $4,000. It's hard to keep that into perspective. For the average person who's currently listening, it's yeah, we talk in terms of ETH. It's if it's only 2 or 3, that's close to $10,000 if it's 2 ETH.
I know. Yeah, all
nuts.
My friends and all my coworkers think I'm crazy. I'll be like, dude, check out this pixelated. This is back when I bought 40 strawberries. I don't know if you know that project.
I do.
Yeah, it's look at these pixelated strawberries I spent $4,000 on, which is crazy. I mean, even myself 4 months ago would be I would never imagine I'd be spending that kind of cash on that kind of stuff. But
it's funny the irony of it all, and I think that's what I like about this community, is that there's a lot of the people who are in here, and the people who have sustained are people who have done a lot of research, and they've done there's a lot of work that goes into this, but on the surface, it just looks like memes and memeing people who are trying to shit on the industry, or it looks like we are having a great time, but underneath that, there's hours and hours and hours of research behind this.
Oh yeah, definitely are. It's a hard conversation to have with people that aren't in this space.
Yeah,
because
it is. Go ahead.
I was gonna say the go-to is everyone's like, well, why would you ever spend that much money on a JPEG? I can go screenshot it and I have it too now. I'm like, it's not how it works. It's a one of one digital scarcity. That's where I usually lose them. So
yeah, what I try to do is I try to give a real an example of if you want a car and you just go to the car lot and take it, does that make it yours?
Right.
You
Yeah.
know, like
That's
if you know.
Yeah, I used the
like,
Xerox example with baseball cards.
Okay.
Like you can Xerox copy a autographed baseball card, and it could look identical. Like you could print it on cardboard if you wanted.
Yep.
Yeah, but it's not the original.
No. And what I've tried, like I had a friend. It was in another, well, not Discord, but it was in a Guilded server, and he was bringing up some really valid concerns, and I enjoy when people bring up arguments or like bring up hesitations or bring up like resistance, because like it's not like we don't need just an echo chamber, and if we're not bringing in these conversations, if we're not having this dialogue with people, like we're not going to improve, because there's some really valid concerns that people bring up,
Right.
And one thing that actually is I guess really I lost my train of thought, but like what's wild is that like in having these conversations, it actually helps me like describe it even better, because there's a few things you have to believe in before you kind of get to like flipping JPEGs. There's a lot of like, and it's not tribal knowledge because it's all out there. Like tribal knowledge means that there's gates in between you and the knowledge. But there's some things that's like, if you don't believe in like a decentralized economy, or at least some version of it, this isn't going to make sense. Right.
Yeah, exactly.
At the core of everything. So, there's that. There's the trusted system. Like, how many times have you been fucked over by I'm not sure if he understands words yet, but
no, you're good.
I'm sorry.
I mean,
sorry.
He's only 3 months old. I'm sure he'll be fine. He's not going to be scarred or anything.
Okay. But like I've had my fair share of like people messing up payments and like not getting paid when I'm supposed to, and like things being short, and like there's been a lot of things on my end where it's like, there's a lot of reasons for me to trust the system and to believe in it more or less, and then the rabbit hole goes further and further and further. But I'm not sure if that's been your experience, but like with people that like I know, it's like if people haven't experienced that kind of like pain or that like discomfort or that just that you trust someone and then it just doesn't happen. I'm not sure if you've had any experiences like that.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. I mean, it's got its own, like, it's one of the most secure currencies, I think, as far as like the currency stability goes. But the part I think where people let down their guards is all the attack vectors you can have of people getting in and taking your currency. Like, not the actual currency itself being compromised, but the structure, really. But yeah, people definitely breaking into wallets, and I mean, you hear about it all the time. So I think
happened to me.
Yeah, you gain trust in a lot of ways, but then you gotta watch your ass a little bit, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, the way it happened with me was, I was reaching out to the Collabland bot support on Telegram, and I've never used Telegram. Like, I hardly know how it works, how it functions. And I followed the instructions. I reached out. I sent a message. I said, "Hey, I'm having some issues connecting my hardware wallet. Yada yada yada." And they said they'll never reach out to you first. So I DM'd, but then someone DM'd me. I didn't check who that was, and I automatically just assumed that was support. So there was already a layer of trust that was there. And then I went to this website and literally, not on my hardware wallet, but on my hot wallet, like literally entered in my seed phrase, like point blank entered it, and then obviously there was an error that came up. It didn't connect like it was supposed to. Right. And then an hour later, all my ETH was gone, What
did you end up losing there?
About 0.45.
Okay. So you weren't storing like your valuable collectibles and all that, or?
So it actually had all my collectibles in there, but it was, I don't know what like they were running. I don't know if it was just an Ethereum, withdraw, but okay. I was able, I had about 0.25 in my hardware wallet, enough to like transfer microtransactions to like get the NFTs out, like to pay the gas to like, you know what I mean? And then, actually how I found, like, I'm not sure how I found you through the FOTO Fund, through that project. And through the first game, I was actually airdropped the second round of 2 NFTs. 2 members made bids on it because I didn't have enough to really play the game. Right. And then I got all my ETH back.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
That'll happen in like a week.
There's some crazy stories.
Yeah, man.
Just so your listeners know why I keep looking down. I have a mini dinosaur down here. Let's see if he can. He's just like attacking his bouncer. He's making quite a bit of noise right now. I might have to pick him up in a second.
Oh, that's good, man. No, it adds a little. I mean, I think we've all gotten used to it working from home and doing this remote. Like anything remote is just.
Yeah, it's true. He's deciding he wants to just be really vocal right now. Is he coming through on the mic?
Yeah, he is a little bit. He is a little bit. It's funny though.
He was good for a second there. Here you go, man. You good? But yeah, some people get their ledger compromised. The stories that I've heard. And I won't name any names, yeah. The social engineering people do now is pretty crazy. The trust they build, like they'll collaborate with you, on these projects for like 2 weeks. We were actually selling pieces, and they're giving you ETH from the sales, so they build up this trust. And then one day, OpenSea doesn't work all of a sudden, and so then they give you to their tech support or whatever, and somehow get you to screen share. Never screen share anything with strangers over especially considering with your hardware wallet. And then they the scheme that impressed me the most, like the scammers are getting pretty creative. So they had them screen share so that they could capture the QR code. And then they were having them do these small test transactions, right? And telling them that you're going to get a bunch of ledger approval. You got to sign on the ledger. And these are just for test transactions. But really what they're doing is in the background, every ledger that you're signing, every transaction you're signing, they're just moving your apes and your Ethereum out of your ledger in the background. Like, it's pretty crazy.
Wow.
Hold on, I'm going to pick him up really quick.
Yeah. That was the part I didn't really understand. I mean, that is, I read about that, of course, but that is it's impressive, honestly. I mean,
yeah. Life is different with a baby, I'll tell you that much.
I'm sure, like I know, like everyone that I know that's had kids, like, well, hello there, guy. Everyone that I know is that the feeling when that child is born, like the entire world looks a little bit different, is what I've heard.
Oh yeah, you can't. It's just you don't have like freedom of time anymore. You just get these little moments. Yeah. You're like, all right, we got 20 minutes. Like you don't have
savor it
all day to just do whatever, and you got to really plan things out.
Yeah. I mean, my like I have like the closest thing I have to that is my dog, and she instead of just kind of like, she's not like the easiest dog to work with because she's highly aggressive towards other dogs and requires a lot of training, a lot of like reinforcement, a lot of like, it gets to the point where I actually leave my phone in the house when I go take her on a walk, just because like I've been on my phone once and she's caught me off guard because she's really smart. Right. She's really fast. And she like, yanks the leash right out, and I can't do it, but she requires a good 7 to 8, usually probably between 5 and 7 walks a day,
Jeez.
Yeah, it's nuts. Because we've had instances that are not the most, they're not the most fun to deal with, especially with another dog involved,
Oh yeah, definitely.
So, but I've heard that the amount of patience that I have is not going to even prepare me, or that's going to prepare me a little bit for what having a kid is going to be like,
Yeah, you just get used to like doing things with one hand, like you get really good, and then you, I don't know, you take advantage of every moment you get, and everything just turns into a kind of a funny joke because even during a podcast, you're holding a baby, just making sounds, and I can't tell you how many Twitter spaces I've done for like drops. And like I'm on stage with hundreds of people listening, and just he's in the back, like on my shoulder, like this, just blabbering away. So yeah,
it's the at least in spaces you can't, like, it's it's kind of unexpected though when they hear the kid, because you don't know what anyone's doing. Like these was like trying to mow the grass on one of his spaces, I heard.
Oh really?
Just like didn't work. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's funny. I think people
Yeah,
are
man.
just getting more accepted of just like working at home with all the chaos, like you were saying earlier.
Yeah. I mean, the job that I recently just departed, like I was at a call center and I was on the phone all day, and she barks at every dog that comes by, every UPS truck that comes by, and people just got used to it. It just people got a lot more accepting over the pandemic when it came to that because we had no choice.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, man. But wanna hop in, dude. Like I know we went off on a little bit of an intro, a little bit of security banter, a little bit of a small bit of culture here, but like want to give the audience who doesn't know you, I want to have you introduce yourself and like tell us a little bit about who you are, man. What do you do?
Yeah, so I mean if it's not obvious already, the name's Ben Strauss. And I'm a landscape photographer from Colorado. I was born and raised here. So it's a super gorgeous state. Very fortunate to live here. Like right in my backyard, we have the Colorado Rockies. That's like one of the most photogenic places in the U.S., I think. A lot of national parks and everything. So I've been doing that for about 8 years. It really started with my mom. She's been a photographer my whole life, even into the film days. And it started when she got a new camera, and she gave me her Canon Rebel T4i, which anyone out there who knows what a Rebel is, it's like an entry-level $250 Canon. And I actually shot with that for well into like this beginning of the successes of my career was with the Rebel. And a lot of people were just blown away when they'd find out that I'm shooting with this little 18 megapixel camera. What do you think, bud? And yeah, I did that for quite a while, actually. A lot of the processing that I got into, it's pretty different than a lot of things you might see out there. I don't even remember. It was near the beginning when I was getting kind of that photo bug. It's addicting and fun to chase cool nature landscapes and conditions. And I was flipping through a magazine, might have been on an airplane, and then I found an image that was edited in such a way that I was like, I have to figure out how to do this, because it looks like it's from a movie, like something straight out of a Tolkien novel, like super cinematic. It's not like your usual tourism photography.
Right.
And so like I think when I got home, I started just YouTubing, like I'm pretty sure I like exactly typed that in. How do you edit a photograph to be super dramatic or look like something from a movie? And I was just trying to figure out, you have no idea about the space. You don't know all the buzzwords. And then slowly I kind of funneled down and found this specific editing workflow kind of genre, which is pretty Photoshop heavy and hyper realistic and kind of dream world and ethereal. So I spent probably the next 4 years, man, I was obsessed. Like 12 hours every weekend and a couple hours every day after work, getting beat up by my baby right now. And yeah, just slowly started building my skills and in Photoshop and in camera as well. And yeah, it kind of evolved into my style today, which is that very dramatic, cinematic look. And the reason why I think I really kind of vibe with that is when you're out in nature, you're shooting 3-dimensional, right? You have the breeze on your face. You got that third dimension of actually being there. But then when you share photographs in the 2D world, you lose that third dimension. So I think processing is a way to kind of recuperate that lost third dimension. So instead of having that experience and the physical experience of being there, you've got the visuals kind of being pumped up, if that makes sense, and all the strengths in the photograph being highlighted and I wouldn't say, some people might say exaggerated, but yeah, you're definitely bringing out the strengths and so you get that same wow factor looking at a photograph. Like if you just took a cell phone picture of a beautiful spot, people might be like, oh, that's pretty. But if they were there in that exact same spot, yeah, remember, you're gonna just start going crazy. If you were there in that exact same spot, you would definitely have that wow factor. So I wanted to have that same reaction from people, but looking at like a 2-dimensional, medium, like a print or a phone screen. So that's like kind of really how I got into it and developed the style that I did. And then I started teaching that style. I have a bunch of tutorials on my website. And I think the business came out of demand. It wasn't the other way around. I started a website because it started taking off on Instagram in 2018. I think over like 1 month, I went from a couple hundred to 10,000 followers. And then from there, it just kept going. And so people were asking for prints and asking how I edit. So I built a website to kind of meet that demand. And I didn't expect it to turn into much, just like a little fun side thing. And then that kept getting more and more traffic and volume and attention, and my photographs featured more places. And it turned into kind of a serious side business, which actually it still is. I work full time as an aerospace engineer. Most people don't know that.
I was going to ask if you. Yeah, I was actually going to ask that if this was still full time, even in the NFT space, or if you were.
Yeah, it's still a part time thing. So I'm an aerospace engineer, and we work with that's what I went to school for, mechanical design and engineering. So work with customers like JPL and NASA and Blue Origin and SpaceX, and we develop all a lot of the motion or the robotics behind their spacecrafts and satellites, and we do the drilling systems on the Mars rovers, and we build quadcopters that go on the moons of Jupiter, landing structures for lunar landers. So it's a whole different world. See, I got 2 degrees in that. Actually, funny, before that, I have 2 music degrees as well in jazz performance. So I kind of just keep changing my mind of what I want to do, I think. I think the only constant has been photography, honestly.
But I think you bring up a really good point though there. I really enjoyed that, because I think, I'm not sure how old you are, but I'm 29, and my parents are, close to their 60s, and but it's always been this you need to have something figured out by a certain age, or it's there's a one track that you need to when you decide, that's it. And I kind of just said I don't think that's for me,
Right.
Very similar to I enjoyed hearing that. It's you're an aerospace engineer, you play jazz music, and you take pictures, and I just think it's incredible.
Yeah, it's been it's been pretty crazy path. You learn a lot. I think they all feed into each other.
Yeah, man.
Music helps creative engineering, problem solving, and good engineering helps the technical, mathematical side of photography, which is probably a good segue into I've been getting into that the new project that we just dropped the first piece on, and actually sold to Chevy Pop, which was really awesome in that 24-hour auction. But
wow.
I think the engineering side of my brain is why I wanted to get into custom smart contract writing, and that's where we got.
Did you write that all yourself?
Huh?
Did you write that all yourself, that entire contract? Did you have how did that whole project come to fruition?
Yeah, so my best friend from college, his name is Marco Papis. We were roommates and took every class together. This is an engineering school. And we actually ended up working at the same aerospace company. So he's a super good, he's like a programming wizard. And I have, hold on, buddy. And I have a lot of programming background. So I just brought this idea to him. So I've seen it in other digital, art mediums or genres, where they're not just static video or images or just looping videos. These pieces are actually interactive somehow with the outside world. And I knew the power of a smart contract and what you could do with it, but no one's really utilizing it to their full extent. A lot of people are not utilizing it.
Yeah. They are. Yeah, a lot of people are. Yeah, I got you.
And so I brought this idea to him, I think at lunch one day. And we've been looking to start a business together anyways. So we've developed a few products and kind of went down the patenting route and some prototyping. So I brought this idea to him, what if we just work on NFTs and make a really sick project that's interactive with the real world? And we started coming up with all kinds of crazy ideas, pieces that change every time they're sold for, an amount higher than the previous amount. Ones that maybe display something different in the photograph depending on some kind of parameter or variable inside each collector's wallet, maybe like age or transaction history.
Yep.
And then I was like, what if we made like because people display these on big displays, right? A lot of collectors do. So like, what if we made a landscape photograph that was like a window to the outside world, but in a different part of the planet? So it would track the exact sunrise, sunset, day, night cycle, no matter where you are on the Earth and no matter what time of year. So that's kind of where we developed this idea about 2 months ago, and then we put our minds together to really kind of figure out how do you create a photograph that's like truly tethered to the outside world, and no matter where you're looking at it on Earth, it will exactly match up with whatever's going outside your window. So
that's insane, man.
Yeah. So we dropped that first piece from Zion Canyon in Utah, and you hopped in that space, right, with Christopher Shin? I don't remember if you were.
I wasn't in that one. No, I wasn't. I just saw like I was actually I was out, but then I saw all the tweets from it. I think it was like right when I got home, and I'm like, oh my God, like this is incredible.
Right. Yeah. So it was really fun. I didn't even think about this aspect of it. It was like a really good marketing strategy, which just kind of popped up. But we were in the room, and you know how there's people all over the world live on these spaces.
So
people just started sharing what they were seeing and like screenshotting it and tweeting about it, and it was so cool. Like someone in India would be like, I'm seeing it fade to sunrise right now from the Milky Way, and then someone in Australia was looking at it in midday, and then someone over in like East Asia was looking at the sunset fade. So it was just so cool to see, like in live time, everyone sharing that the image looks different for them.
And just to pause and kind of like package that up for the people who are listening, basically like this image that he released as an NFT drop was like it wherever you are in the world or whatever time it is during the day, the picture adjusts to the sun cycle or to the 24-hour cycle. And so people in Tokyo will see something different than people in California, and like people in California will see something than people in Europe. And no matter where you are, you open it up and it changes at like during the time of the day, and you can literally watch it happen.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
I'm just making sure did I get that right? I just want to like package it. Okay.
And it's seasonal too, so as the days get shorter or longer, it adjusts. So it's just,
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, it's just pulling from the a sun calculator. The JavaScript looks at your IP address of whatever browser it's being viewed on. And so it knows exactly what the current sunset, sunrise times are. And then we wrote in a fading algorithm that's basically mapped around those, those trigger points like sunset and sunrise. So the way that the map works is an hour before sunrise or 2 hours before sunrise, it'd start fading. And then the hour before sunrise, it's pure sunrise. And then an hour after, it'd fade into day. And then it'd do the exact same thing for night. And so even if you're in like the edge cases that we tested, like these extremes, like northern Iceland, where you have just huge day, right? Sometimes you have like a 24 hours of light. It would also reflect that as well, which is pretty cool.
That's insane.
Yeah, so that's kind of where that idea came from. We wanted a living photograph that was representative of what you were looking at outside your window.
And for those who are wondering what piece we're talking about, I'm gonna link that in the show notes, just so you guys can take a look at that while you're watching this. And I'll put that in the intro to have people watch that, look at that image or that video while they're watching, because I just think that's incredible.
Yeah, cool. And unless they're in the if they're in the middle of the day, it's gonna not really change because it's daytime. But
right.
Yeah, if you catch this episode right around sunset or sunrise, then for sure you'll start to see it evolve. And it updates every 30 seconds. So it doesn't need metadata refresh, and it's cross-blending images at 0.03% each time it changes. So you can't even perceive that it's changing unless you have your browser open for in 10 minutes to half an hour.
It's a digital version of watching paint dry, right?
Yeah, it's pretty cool though. So it's been fun. And the next one that I've been working on yesterday is going to be even somehow even more badass. So I'm excited to release it.
That's sick, man. That's sick. And I love that we're talking. One of the reasons like this got me so excited is because right now, and we're so spoiled in the NFT space with the amount of like innovation at the rapid pace that it like moves at. Mm-hmm. And not to say that everyone's doing the same thing, but there is a lot of people that are doing the same thing.
Oh, yeah.
Like, and I say that with the context of like, it's not saying that no one is not, like, it's not saying that people aren't talented. It's just like this whole space is incredibly innovative, talented, but you see a lot of the same things.
Right.
And I think I bring that up because like this was the first thing that stuck out to me where it was like, that's different. And not only is this really cool, but it's utilizing more of the technology that people aren't currently, I guess, privy to or aware of, or like have you even have an idea of how early we are, you know?
Oh yeah. Oh, and that's kind of why I always talk about this in spaces when, I mean, I've been fortunate enough to have a lot of success in the NFT space so far, but I think I'm only getting just started for sure. It's gonna, only up from here, as we say. And so like I was one of the first handful of photographers that joined back in late February. I remember it was like me and like maybe 10 others trying to battle it out against all these digital artists and animated pieces, trying to make a place for ourselves. And a lot of collectors didn't believe photography would ever be something that would be popular in the NFT space because they didn't see it. A lot of them didn't see it as art. I had a lot of collectors tell me photography's... Hold on, Bear. I had a lot of collectors tell me photography's not art. It's just like nature does the art. We're just documenting it. And they were like, yeah, photography's never going to take off like these other things. I was like, you just wait, man. It's going to happen. And here we are like dominating the space right now.
Dude, I like, as much as I love the profile picture, like I think there's like different emotions that are with different projects. Like I have different reasons why I like different areas, but dude, I've had the most connection with the photography, with the photography crew. I think that this space that y'all have created is one of the most open and accepting and just like incredibly talented spaces that I've been a part of, and where it's not this like or mentality. It's not like only this will make it or that or this or that. And it's like, I think in my opinion, and this is what I want to see if you share similar thoughts, but like the NFT space is where we start like removing the word or and replace it with and. I think people get this like this limited view of how much opportunity there actually is. And in a Web 2.0 world, they would be right. You know, like not saying they would be right, but like the way they were talking is like you have to compete for the attention because there's only this small sliver of attention available, or there's only a small sense of market share available. But I think NFTs just like slam the door wide open, where it's like you don't have to compete with anybody. Like I can love my profile picture projects, and I love the photography scene. I may have a stronger connection, but it doesn't mean that I don't think that they're going to make it. Like profile picture projects have like their strengths and like they have their own style and they're special in their own way. But I just think that's the wonderful part about this is that like, you know, it still shows that even though we live in a trustless system, or this technology is a trustless system, like we're still humans at the end of the day, you know, like we're still kind of like, we're still trying to like think that we need to compete to like win the other, like to beat the other one out. But I think this is what, to your point, is proving that that's not even a conversation that needs to be happening anymore. Right,
exactly. And we're just getting started too. So I mean, you get new rounds of collectors like every week that you've never heard of. I get some big buys sometimes just from some person I've never heard of that's like brand new to the space with 60 followers who just drops like 3 or 4 Ethereum on one of my pieces. I'm like, where did they come from? Like they weren't someone on my radar. You know, usually you have like your group of these collectors that are kind of put up and I was going to say, they're on like the main stage, and everyone knows who these collectors are. And, you know, those are the ones that you want to get on their radar. And then I'll just get a random sale from someone I've never heard of. It's just like, this is my first piece. I just joined. So I think we're just going to get a lot more people joining the space, and Yeah, it's pretty cool how it evolves, but definitely feels like one big thing about the NFT space, even if you don't feel like you're competing, I think comparison can be a pretty tough thing to deal with. It's like constant comparison.
Yeah.
You're seeing everyone's curated success, you know?
Right.
All you see. Right. People aren't like posting about how they're failing or not selling. You just see sale. I got a sale. I got a sale. Like all the way down your homepage, and it can bum you out if you're not getting sales. So
yeah, but I'll tell you though, like I've seen. I mean, especially I think it's why it's important to like understand like where people talk about that, because even yesterday, like Anna McNaught was in a space with John that I was a part of, and you know. I think the ones who are genuine are actually doing that, because Anna shared her entire journey from like when her Phases of the Moon project went up, and it literally just sold out, and it's been like 3 weeks later, but she got like nothing on it for the first like 3 weeks, you know. And it was like, you know, she was like doubting herself, like comparing to other people's success, like, you know, there was all these emotions, but it was really cool to like hear that just raw from the heart, you know, authentic. And now she's like, you know, now it's blowing up, and now there's pieces that are flipping on the secondary market for like 2, 3, 5. Someone even has the one they don't want to sell for like 100 Ethereum because they just don't want to get rid of it.
Right.
But if they do, it better be worth a pretty penny. So I agree with you in a sense, but I also think that like I've seen more people share their losses in this space than in a traditional like Web 2.0 world.
Oh yeah.
Where like I think like the progress is slow. We're still human. We've still been conditioned. Like that's my biggest, like, that's the biggest piece of awareness that I've had, is that we were so conditioned in this like Web 2, social media, e-commerce, like, you know, influencer world where we only show the wins and the losses are never shared, especially on places like Instagram. It's ideal for perfection. And like I see more of it in Web 3. And I think those are the people that like, of course, there's always going to be people that only share their W's, but they'll never share their L's. But I just see more of it here. It's not perfect, but I do see more of it here because people are actually incentivized to share their loss, you know, because they want to grow the space and they want to share to the newcomer, like, hey, like you got to get punched in the mouth maybe once or twice, and like, but it's okay. Like everyone's been punched in the mouth before.
Yeah.
You know?
I think spaces is what really drives that sharing.
Yeah.
People do it in I hear most of the sharing of the mental health struggles that can come along with all this, and just like the losses. You hear most of that in spaces when people are talking live with each other. So I think just that, having that aspect, which Instagram didn't really ever have. And I mean, any other art curation, like in the physical world, you're never talking to this many people all the time. No, so it's pretty cool. Some people are willing to open up. I do all the time. I talk about how, because everyone's like, you know, their first reaction is like, how do you have you're a dad, aerospace engineer, photographer, and you're doing this NFT space reasonably well. Like, how the hell do you do it? I'm like, well, it comes with the downside. Like, there's a lot of anxiety involved. Like, some mornings I wake up and you're just like, you just have off days because maybe you're just worried that your project isn't, something's been sitting too long, and it can just like weigh on your mind all day. And then you're seeing your friends or other artists make sales that can weigh on you. So people are more willing to kind of open up. I'm like always fully transparent in those rooms too.
Yeah. No, I love that, man.
Yeah, it's nice to hear everyone's doing it. And I think some people take it a little too far. We've talked about this in other rooms where the exploitation of sob stories can get a little bit. Yeah. Some people, I mean, genuinely have a great story, and everyone deserves to share their story. But there are some times where you jump from room to room and you hear them just hitting the repeat button, and they're just shilling the exact same like sob story and not wanting to listen to anyone else.
But I think there's something really valuable you said right there, and it's that they're shilling their sob story. Yeah. Like there's nothing authentic about it. You know what I mean? It's not to say that it's not real. Yeah.
There's a few out there where there's some back channel talk being like, that person just hits the play button every room they go to and just like cue the fight, the waterworks and everything. You're like, wow, it's cringy after a while. So you just got to be careful. I know some amazing photographers who have crazy stories that would sell their work in a second, like how it literally got them off the feet from like a drug addiction. and they never
Joey?
talk about it because it's just not their personality. They'd rather have their art sell them, art sell itself in a sense.
Yeah.
So I kind of fall into that category as well. I never talk about maybe why I do photography as much, just how I do it and what it is. And yeah.
Yeah. And if there's a right opportunity to like share the story and like weave it in there, like then it, sure. But if it makes sense to, I mean, so, but yeah, I just think that that's it. You bring up a good point. Cause like, even when it's like, when I'm in a couple spaces and they bring someone up and you can just tell even on the opposite ends of the spectrum, like where they're not like sad about it. They're just like, they have this project that they're working on and you can tell that they're just trying way too hard. It's like, if you don't try so hard to like shill this, like if you just like say like, hey, like I'm looking for feedback, if you approach everything with curiosity and like have a genuine desire to learn, like people are probably going to help you.
Yeah.
But it's just, you can sniff it from a mile away. I was in a room and I DM'd someone just while the space was happening. I'm like, am I the only one who's feeling like this? Like I feel like this person is completely full of it and like just has no value they're trying to add to the scene. But
right, it happens. It's a touchy subject for sure. That's another thing I do is I stay out of the drama as much as I can.
And unfortunately there is drama and we're all humans. We can't. We're still gonna create it wherever we go.
Right. Yeah.
I've gotten caught up in it a few times.
Oh yeah. People will. I've seen it happen too. Like people are quick. You can be canceled pretty quick on Twitter if you're not careful. So I just try to stay out of things and just kind of give more of a. Try to give more of a, either if it's my opinion, I very much state that it's my opinion when I'm in rooms,
right.
Or I try to take more of an objective and non-subjective approach to things, just like, which is nice. I like sharing the technical details and how things are done and more about the inspiration behind things instead of like the whys, I guess.
And I think, but that's what people are, when you boil it down from a collector standpoint, at least, like that's what people are there for.
Right.
Like to see that picture is really cool. And it probably would fascinate me a lot, but without knowing who you are as a person or not having been in the spaces or been a part of some of the communities you've been a part of, it's not that it wouldn't be like unimpressive, but it creates the bond between the artist and the work that much more. Like it makes it that much, more special and not just a JPEG I can go download and right click save as on Google, if I see it. Right. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it's good. The right amount of story is perfect for like the background.
Yeah, yeah. You bring up a good point though, because I never even thought of that. I'm someone who's very open, but sometimes I have to throttle. Like I have to throttle it and just like know my place, because there's been times where I've shared way too much and it does feel almost like a shill, or it feels like, just there's sometimes where I do get that feeling. I think it's just a balance of like when and where. And I think that's one of the coolest things about this space is that it forces people to be very mindful of this. People who are actually trying to make it, it forces these questions that normally we don't historically think of. Like normally we wouldn't think about when we're trying to do this.
Yeah. This is totally different because you're talking to people, like actually talking to people instead of just texting it out and in this delayed conversation style where you can think about what you're going to say and text it, delete it, text it again, that kind of thing. This is one of those unique spots where you're constantly talking live with 50 to 100 or more people about your work. So you can't take back anything you say. And everything's live, and you get a lot more information out that way. So it's pretty cool. And some people just have I don't know what it is. And I think we're all trying to figure this out. Yeah. Some people have just like a magnetic property to their personalities and their work. Like when combined, they just like take off out of nowhere.
Yeah.
So I like to always, I don't know if you call it psychoanalyze, but I like to study the human behavior side of the space and just kind of take note of what works, what doesn't work, and how do you approach a sale, how do you approach a collector properly. And I've done it wrong. Everyone's made mistakes, and you learn where they're like, "Yeah, you're annoying, so I'm gonna stop talking to you." So you're like, "Okay, that didn't work." And luckily, I've made really good friendships with a lot of the big artists like Jacob Bricklin and Kath Simard, who, Kath and I are in FOTO.
Mm-hmm.
So we were like co-founded that. And like Christopher Shin and a lot of these other Ruben Wu, Eric Rubin, these guys are like pretty big in the photography space, in the NFT space. And so luckily they just share everything, how they market and how to approach collectors, how to show your work. And I always run things by them before I tweet things if they're like big drop announcements. So it's nice to have that support network, which is another thing I think is unique in this space. So everyone kind of has their group or multiple groups that they're a part of that are willing to give feedback and support them on, even when you have like a tough day, when you're just like, man, I haven't sold anything. This has happened to me too. I haven't sold anything in like 7 weeks, and it's like, what am I doing wrong? You start to like get in your head, like, does my work suck? Or it can be pretty bad. It's just patience, though. Now I can see from the other side, like, just keep grinding. And your work, all it has to do is speak with one collector who has any level of clout, and you'll kind of hit your break, which I feel like I'm just really starting to ramp up. I sold out everything on Foundation, got onto SuperRare, which is a big win.
Big deal. Yeah.
Yeah, so I applied 6 times and failed. For everyone out there, don't feel bad that they don't respond to your applications. I applied 6 times, like once every 2 weeks, and I've never heard back. And then I just took a different approach every single time. Like, the first time was like, here's my art. Second time was like, here's my story. Third time was like, here's what the project I'm doing and why it's going to be the next big thing. That didn't work. And then, like, I don't even remember what I did 4, 5, and 6. But then the 7th time I applied, I said, here's my sales on Foundation, and you're missing out on this commission. And then they reached out. I mean, you just keep trying different angles. And then they invited me onto the platform, and it is very highly curated. This is just a little side tangent. I was getting emails from them, like, you should do this. They really want to see you succeed, or make some look
That's
bad.
Cool.
So I mean, really, they would email you and be like, we noticed you posted a piece and it's been sitting a little long. Maybe think about dropping your prices, which some of the stuff felt a little micromanagey to me.
Right.
And then I listed another piece, and they're like, you have 2 pieces unsold. Maybe you should not list any more until you sell these 2. So some of it, I was just like, man, they really like are watching you like a hawk, It's not like Foundation, and definitely not like OpenSea.
No kidding, man.
And then, but yeah, I've sold out all 3 of the Bloom series on there, everything on Foundation. And I'm getting to the point where I've got like collectors that are ready to pounce on the next thing that I drop. So it's kind of taken off. It's pretty crazy. So patience really does pay off, and just if you're grinding and nothing's working, just try something different. Like, there's no shame in trying something that completely falls flat on its face.
Yeah, I mean, you don't know, like, kind of it's because I was a business coach for the past 3 years, and it's like I would, like, people would always get really nervous about, like, when they first got their LLC paperwork back, and they're like, they're really hard on themselves, like they didn't know what step to take, and they were like, I'm just like, when you rode a bike for the first time, you probably sucked at it. Like, you probably had your parents like helping you, and then when they let go without the training wheels, you probably like fell immediately. You know what I mean? It's usually how it works, and it's like applying that same principle to literally everything we're doing. Like, things are gonna suck, and you're gonna have more failures than wins. And I think that's a really sound piece of advice. And just for my audience, the context of like what because my podcast was actually started a year ago in gaming and esports, so there's still some of the audience that I'm speaking to here now that I've transitioned into NFTs. And the equivalent of getting accepted on the SuperRare is like the equivalent of getting partnered on Twitch, except that what it sounds like, SuperRare actually tries to help you succeed once you're there. Twitch does not seem to be doing that right now. but just to kind of like make a comparison, that's kind of because a lot of Twitch partner applications, even though they hit requirements, they get rejected because of X, Y, Z, whatever the reason is. So yeah, just to kind of like wrap that up and to tie that together there.
Right. Yeah, I always kind of compared it to like the pro leagues of the NFT space, like the NFL of NFTs. It's just hard to get in, man. They really only have a handful of photographers in there.
But that's what makes it so special, is that like the work that's coming in there is people that it wasn't just a free ticket. It wasn't just like a, hey, like, whether it's sympathy or whether they just want to let them in or whether they personally like have a liking to their work. But it's actually, it feels like they actually have a standard. And if you're not meeting one of them, if you're missing 1 out of 7, like, then you're not going to get in. That's just the way it feels, at least from my view. Yeah.
I can only name like 4 photographers in there, and we know there's so many photographers in the space.
Yeah.
And like only 4 or 5 maybe come to mind that are actually in SuperRare. So I feel super honored to be on that platform. Because it does, like, the level of curation is annoying from the outside. I was fed up after like the 6th time. It's probably why I came at the 7th time kind of with a little bit of an attitude. Like, well, you're missing these sales. Like, I'm making sales, so you're the ones being, quote unquote stupid for giving up these free commission you could be making. So I was like, I got nothing to lose, so I'm going to be aggressive on this last one. And it just happened to work. But the collectors really like it because it takes out all that guessing work. Like, are they going to be successful? Are they going places? Is this a good investment? It's kind of just a checkbox. They're like, yep, they're on SuperRare, so I feel confident investing in that artist. Yeah. So it's really, I feel fortunate to be there. And I've got the Bloom series, which is the wildflower stuff from Colorado, like some of my best shots. Because I like specialize. It's like what I'm known for here in Colorado. It's my epic grand wildflower photography. Like, not like macroscopic pictures of petals and stuff, but huge landscapes with these flowing seas of wildflowers out into the mountainous regions and lakes and rivers and stuff. So yeah, it's a 4-part series, and 3 of them are sold out. I'm dropping the next one tomorrow.
That's insane.
We'll see how long that one lasts. But yeah, so that's things are really starting to take off. And there are times where I thought, it was going nowhere. And that brings us back to the whole, like, you can only, I've heard, I don't remember who it was that said this. You ever listen to Tim Ferriss's podcast?
I haven't. I know the name, but I haven't listened to his podcast.
Yeah, it's like a startup, or you just interview successful people in all kinds of practices and fields all over the world. And someone said you can only fail so many times before you inevitably win, which is true. Yeah. So don't be afraid to fail fast and fail early. That's another one. And then another one is let's see, how's it go? Oh man, I'm gonna forget. Yeah, but so you can't fail so many times before you win. I don't know. It'll come to me later.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's good, because I recently, the past 3 years have been probably the toughest parts of my life, and like it just seemed like failure after failure after failure, and like I would compound things that were like, there were things that were out of my control, but then things I did have control, I would just compound it and make it worse and worse and worse. But the way I look at this now is the opportunities that are presenting me as a result of that. It's almost like being like forged in fire, forged in, like it just, there's like this hardened product, or this piece of work that comes out of it, based on all of the shit or all of the mistakes that you did make, Yeah,
there's a lot to learn.
There is, man. One thing I would like to, I know you're knee deep in, obviously you're in the knee deep in collecting or taking pictures, selling photography work, probably supporting other work. What is it? What are some other NFT projects that like you're into? Like, is there something outside of photography that like kind of like catches your eye, or that's like being innovative, or that just like, I guess for lack of a better term, tickles your fancy? Right.
Sure. I mean, I play the collectibles game like everybody else too.
Yeah.
Those are always fun. Yeah, I mean, I guess a big one would be, apart from being honored to own some apes and cool cats, we all say we're JPEG rich and ETH poor in this space. We're just gonna drill. Like, I have so much more ETH wrapped up in these apes that are worth well over like a few $100,000. It's pretty crazy.
It's nuts.
But fractionalized art is a huge thing, and that's kind of what photo is all about. And I think we're going to see more and more of that because it opens up the accessibility to owning pretty high-end, expensive pieces, whether it be a punk or an ape or like a gallery of artwork from well-known artists that would be well out of our price range normally. Like, I couldn't afford a Kath Zimmer piece. I think her last piece sold for 17 point something ETH on SuperRare.
She's insane.
Yeah, so I can't afford her piece, but her and I and John Knopf and Ravi Vora, we all have our work inside of what we call a vault. So we put 3 pieces in each, valued at over, I think it's like over 140 Ethereum. And fractionalizing it, through the representation of like a token that you make allows people to partially own some percentage of the values stored in that asset, which in this case is a collection of artworks. So I think that's going to be a big thing moving forward. I mean, someone did it with the zombie punk. That's kind of where it really took off. Yeah. And so when a collector or a whale inevitably comes by one day, you got to manifest your destiny here. So it's going to sell. When they come by and pick up this vault for, I think it's a value, the valuation is like 540 ETH. So they're going to come and drop 540 ETH and buy the entire vault out and all the artwork. And then that ETH will get evenly distributed to everyone who owns photo token, according to how much they own. So that's a pretty cool concept in this space. So there's a lot of projects that are starting to look at fractionalizing. And that's what Deez is all about. He works for fractional.art. So it's going places. And I've thought about fractionalizing my ape, selling it out to a bunch of other people. But yeah, there's all kinds of things you can do with that.
Yeah, I mean, that's actually how I found you, because I found fractional. I don't know how I found fractional. That's the story I don't know, but I found fractional somehow. Whether, someone that I looked up to filed, and it was when Deez fractionalized his hoodie punk. And I'm like, this is cool, because his hoodie punk, that's something that relates to a lot of my story, like that there's a lot that speaks to me through that punk. And so I thought that was pretty dope. And Deez was pretty cool about it. He's like, you should all rock it as your profile picture too. Like being able to flex a punk and own something as your, like, that's a pretty cool thing, yeah,
it is.
And for people that are a little bit lost on that is, think of it, it's like an element of Robinhood stock trading where you own fractions of stocks, except that if someone wants to, except your number 2, you're doing it with art. You're buying fractions of art, and if someone wants to buy it, you get rewarded for your shares at the current valuation, or whatever it's bought out for, or whatever it's bid on over,
Yeah, it's super cool. The utilities are huge. And then there's DAO structures, which we'll be moving into just as a fractional space in general. So it's just all automated. Decentralized autonomous organizations. Yeah, it's something to definitely look into. If people don't know what it is, it took me a little while to wrap my head around it. But that's a big genre of, I don't know if you call it genre. That's a big space in the NFT community that is taking off, and that I'm a co-founder and one of the first to do it for photography. I mean, there's just collectibles constantly coming out with like interesting roadmaps. I think the game aspect's cool. Like Strawberry.WTF. Super cool guy. He did the rare pizzas, I think is what he called them. That project, which was really successful. He has his hand in the 0N1 Force project, which took off.
Yep.
So he built a really sick video game that's part of the kind of the roadmap for Strawberry. So I think the video game aspect's really cool. Some of the roadmaps people do are really unique. You see celebrities getting into it now, like Ashton Kutcher and Mila Kunis did the Stoner Cats, which is supposedly going to be an Netflix show. And then, there's just a lot of projects coming down the pipeline, like Sevens and Mecca. those are going to be big. Gas wars are insane. Getting anything a pre-mint that's good now is almost impossible unless you're willing to pay like 5 ETH for the freaking transaction, which is crazy.
Right now, gas is at 356. It's insane.
Yeah. Like, well, it'll during like a mecha drop, like the one coming out in the end of September. That's gonna boost it probably past 1,000 Gwei, because it's you have these whales that pump the hell out of it, so that other people, they basically squeeze everyone else out so that they can pick up as much of these as possible, and then flip them on the secondary.
Yeah,
for like 2, 3, 4x. It's nuts. So as just a regular old non-crypto billionaire, a non-billionaire crypto holder, I can't even compete with these guys. Like, you want to win a gas war for a piece that costs 0.1 ETH, you're paying like 3 to 5 ETH. It's ridiculous. They sell out in like minutes, sometimes seconds. The whole thing, all 10,000 will be gone in like the first 30 seconds.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
that's a little I went down a rabbit hole there, but
no, and for those that are like wondering what Gwei is, like that's like it's commonly referred to as gas in the in NFT space. It's essentially the transaction. It's the fee to it's the fee to like put the block on the blockchain. It's the network fee to make these transactions happen. So these miners get paid.
Yeah, and the more demand, the higher it goes, because you're just like basically waving your money. You're standing in line and waving your money like, I'll pay you this much to get in front of the line. And then it's just like everyone competing and the demand going up. Then before you know it, if you want any chance of your transaction going through, you just have to pay a hefty amount. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah,
you need proof of stake. That'll stop all this craziness, spending so much money on gas.
Yeah, and I think that's really where, like, something that I've had my eye on. I don't think it's going to ever overtake it. I know there's arguments on both sides, but Solana is actually something that, like, I think from like the gaming perspective, like Solana is quick. Solana is incredibly fast, and I think that's where it's going to have its advantage. And I think of like some of the games that we play today, like, well, first and foremost, the games that these avatar projects are creating, I think it's a really fascinating concept. My question is, how do these all mesh together, and like where are they all going to be located, and is there going to be interoperability between chains? That's kind of where I'm still got some gray area or question marks. But I think that after watching watching a Solana video and reading a bit about it, like, they were built for speed, and they're mainly built for global trading. Like, that's like what their primary focus is on. But you look at the speed in which that happens, you can start adding AAA graphics, to video games and building them on an engine like that. So like that's my take, is like, I feel like that gaming will take off on Solana, but collectibles and like any sort of like fine art or like super curated art will still live on because I just don't get the same vibe of like owning something on Solana. If it's a collectible piece, I wouldn't trust as much on Solana over Ethereum, or over OpenSea. But that's just it's a fascinating topic to see, like, all of these things being built and compete, and like the games. I love the idea of the games, but I'm still like a bit skeptical, if I'm being honest, on like how that's going to all work.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not you know way more than I do. I don't even have time. I used to be more into the gaming community, but not in a long time. But I definitely am heavily invested in Solana.
Yeah.
So I bought back before they hit the $20 mark, so now they're way above that now. It took off. Yeah. I didn't start seeing it till it went above till it was around 60s when I first had it on my radar. Yeah. I have lucky to be in some inner circles where I get people telling me like, dude, this is gonna be $1,000 soon. This is like back when Solana was like $15. So I was like, all right, I'll throw 5 ETH worth of Ethereum into it, buy like 1,000 Solana, and now it's like up in the $140 range. So it's just like, that was a good investment.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
They also have a really good marketing campaign. They get TikTok dancers to talk about it. That's why they're being pumped so hard.
And I just think it's what I think is fascinating about Solana is like the derivative, like the derivative punks, you know, like the Solana punks and like the Solana ape. It's almost like a copy of basically making it people. It's a little bit more affordable to own a punk, but it's on Solana. And I wonder if like, obviously it won't ever have the special, like it won't have the feeling of an original punk, but like to me that I would always dismiss derivatives. Like up until this point, I think there's been like 6 or 7 projects with derivatives or derivative projects that I'm just like, this actually took off and I could have bought into it. You know, even though I don't really believe in it, I'm like, fuck, man. Like,
I miss them all the time. I'm like the worst at generative. I call them generatives. These are the ones where, you know, you have 1 of 10,000.
Yeah.
Where they generate computer algorithms, put together a bunch of properties and traits and slap together and you get a random whatever, like a punk. Or like, maybe not like a punk, but more like an ape. And all those guys, the On One Force, Yetis, which left a bad taste in a lot of people's mouth. And I bought some of the degenerate apes over on Solana. So we'll see if those ever turn into anything. But yeah,
it's fun.
Yeah, I own some stuff on Solana as well. Cardano, I've never got into that blockchain.
Yeah,
I own some currency, but I don't buy anything or trade. And then Tezos, I don't even touch for many reasons. No.
Yeah. I've only done Tezos just because there's some really cool pieces on the Hen website.
The art is awesome. Yeah, it's
art's
nothing
incredible.
to do with the art.
Yeah.
It's a sensitive subject to talk about when people bring it up. I don't touch Tezos because I trust them zero, and I think their dev team is very, very skillless, and they're going nowhere. And a lot of people share this opinion, especially some of these huge collectors. I think they're gonna die the next crypto winter, but we'll see.
You think so? Yeah,
but that's an opinion and everything, just like everything that I say.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
So,
this is financial advice.
Yeah, because I know people. They'll get a bit defensive because they're like, well, such a good community. I'm like, yeah, the community's awesome. Like the art community's super awesome on the Tezos blockchain. Like Calumet and Hickik-Nunk, or Hissit-Nunk as it's pronounced apparently.
I didn't know that. Yeah, thank you for teaching me that.
The community's awesome, very supportive, cheap as hell gas. But then you look into the dev team and where Tezos is going and how they have no idea how to allocate resources and spend the funding that they have. It's just like, this is not good. That's why they've dropped down. What are they at right now? With this,
it's like 3.
We got this big bull run. Are they still at 3?
Yeah, I think they're around 3.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. They used to be above 7.
Oh, no kidding.
And then they dropped, and they don't follow anything else. Everything else, Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, Cardano, Polkadot, Matic, they all go up. Tezos just hangs out below 3. Just like, yeah, well, maybe take that as a hint. But so I don't mess around on there. I've also had collectors tell me that if I posted work on the Tezos chain, I would have my reputation slashed by magnitudes.
Really?
So I was like, well, I'm going to listen to the people that are buying my work. If they're going to say they're going to stop buying my work if I list things on the Tezos chain, then I'll probably not list things on the Tezos chain.
Yeah.
Which, there'll be some people listening to this that are probably going to DM me and a little bit pissed off. But that's just how I feel about the Tezos chain.
Well, I mean, you speak in your mind, and it's just like, if there's the whole point of this is to trust this. Like, it's kind of weird. We're building a trustless system, but we still have to trust the people that are building it, at least for the interim, that they're going to be doing the right thing. I mean, so I think that's I think I'm really glad that you said that, because it's an important point to bring up. That's just like, don't, cool, I bought it on the Tezos chain just because I like the art, but it's important to have these, because like, if you just, again, going back to the kind of like that like that tunnel where it's just like all the same opinions and all of only positive, and it's only going to work. Like, if you don't ever think outside or challenge something, like, it's, you're going to fail pretty hard in this space. If you don't know how to think for yourself, if you don't know how to trust, if there's certain, if you have an intuitive feeling, like, follow that.
Right. Yeah. I just have the inner circle of people who also don't trust certain things. So I'm just inclined to follow them, especially when they're right over and over and over and over again. They're like, buy this generative, it's going to take off. I'm like, nah. And then it takes off. I'm like, shit, I should have listened to that. Or like, invest in this, don't invest in that. And I have a few people who they literally don't, it's what they do every day. They're day traders and they swing trade and they leverage. Like they do this stuff all day long. So it's like, yeah, you guys, I'm going to trust what the work that you've put in. And I'm going to do my own research so that I can like have an educational conversation about it.
Right.
But they're doing really well for themselves. And we're like really good friends. So of course I'm going to take their advice for more than a grain of salt when it comes to stuff like that. And it always proves like they've proven themselves correct over and over again. Tezos being one of the things that they're like, when it was above, I think, what was its all-time high? Is it like at 12? Did it ever hit 12 or 14? Might have hit.
All-time high was $8.30.
Okay.
$8.30. Yeah.
Yeah, it was around that time when they told me to get out. Like, it's going to crash, and it's not going to bounce back. And so I did. And so far, it's crashed, and it hasn't bounced back. So everything else is bouncing back. Ethereum's bouncing back. And I don't know. I don't want to... What is the actual value of Tezos right now? Is it still really in the threes? It's not pulling up on my Coinbase for some reason. Probably because I just took it off as a preference.
Yeah. Let's see. Actually, no. Today's at 538.
All right, so it is bouncing a little bit. I think everything's moving.
Yeah. But still, because I actually there was a really cool piece that was only on the Tezos chain. I'm like, well, I want to own this, and this is dope.
Right.
So yeah, no, I had some spare to spend. That was just collecting interest in Coinbase, which is a pretty cool feature of it. But right. That was really all I used it for. But yeah, no, thanks for like this is a good chat because like I think there's a lot of my audience is still like very new and like I think going in a bunch of different topics and like random chains and like it sparks a lot of rabbit holes that people can go down because a lot of people ask me, it's like, well, not a lot, but people that I are in my circle that aren't involved in this space are like, where do I even get started? It's just like there's not really one place to get started. You just kind of like find some information and like you just go down like 18 different rabbit holes, you know. One thing I wanted to ask you about, speaking of the trust factor, is Gary V in the space, like Gary Vaynerchuk. Like, what's your thoughts on that?
He's impressive as hell to listen to him talk about anything.
Yeah.
Were
you following him before he got into NFTs? Were you following him before he got into NFTs?
No, I wasn't actually, but I've kind of like backtracked and listened to a lot of his talks about how to run a business as a CEO or a co-founder. And I mean, everything he says, and he's one of those people that someone can like stand up to the mic and challenge his point of view. And then he just smashes it out of the park like every time. His response is just insane. So I don't know a lot about his history, but everything he says, I like definitely vibe with. One of them being like about 9-to-5 jobs, and CEOs and founders just expect this, like, they're like, I work 50-hour, 60, 70-hour weeks. Like, I don't understand why my employees are so lazy. Like, that was one of the things someone said in the audience. Yeah. And then he went on and on about how you can't expect employees to work anywhere near what a founder does because they don't have the same vested interest in ownership, and it has nothing to do with the laziness of an employee. And everything he just says, I'm like, yeah, it makes sense. He seems to be, because I'm huge into the entrepreneur, the entrepreneurial world in general. Like I work 9 to 5 right now, and I'm definitely not going to retire in a 9 to 5. So, like I can only do it so long. I think it's just not in my personality. I want to work for myself, build my own products, and I've always been like that. So, he's been awesome to kind of discover, along with people like Tim Ferriss and Guy Raz, who does How I Built This, like really good podcasts and everything.
Hell yeah.
But I mean, he's crushing it in this space.
Dude, well, yeah. I mean, that was, So like when the reason I asked it, like I had my own opinion because I've been following him since 2018, you know, so like once he got involved, like I kind of knew it was, I was right in that middle point of validation where I was like, I believed in it. The feeling was real. I came in March of this year, you know, like right when Beeple sold that piece, that's what sparked my attention. And I did about 3 months worth of research, and then I just didn't touch it for a little while because I'm like, you know what? Let me just digest. I've read all I can. I've read so much I can take. And then Gary came in, and he like, I saw drops of him talking about it here and there, but he wasn't really like in his full form about it. And then he came out with a project, but I was in that rebellious stage where I'm just like, I can't contain anymore right now. But dude, I absolutely love what he's doing. It's like I have a very biased view just because I've been following him. So I've heard opinions other way, like on the other side of it, like what people think about Gary, what people like think he's doing for the space. I know most of it's positive, but I have seen the other side of the coin, you know, where people think it's just a marketing stunt or like, and he's a really good marketer. I mean, number one, like that last project that he did with the book, I aped in about 24 copies of that book. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Did you see that?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah. I mean, it's insane. He got himself the #1 bestseller. Like he's giving people 2 NFTs and he's putting his reputation on it, you know, and you get to put a great book into the hands of a bunch of people for Christmas.
I know, it's pretty crazy.
So
I think he's good for the space just because he knows how to talk down or talk up or whatever you want to call it, all the naysayers of NFTs.
Yeah.
So he's kind of like a figurehead of like why NFTs are going to be here to stay. And the utility is just, we're seeing the tip of the iceberg with smart contracts and NFT utility. And it's going to be a commonplace way to trade digital assets. Like imagine a world where every purchase made on Amazon, digital or physical, that's shipped to your house is done through a smart contract instead of all the Web 2.0 way of doing things. Or buying like a house where all the escrow and the taxes are wrapped up in the smart contract instead of like mounds of paperwork.
Yeah.
So I think it's the future of digital assets and just selling things over a digital medium, I think. So owning some of these original projects like a Bored Ape, which is going to become historic, is huge. Like I'm pretty sure I'm going to be able to retire off of my one Bored Ape that I own.
I believe it. Yeah.
I'm holding on to it, and I think I'll be getting over 1,000 Ethereum offers for it in the next 24 to 36 months. So, and I'm not the only person that feels that way.
Yeah, no, and apes are like one of my favorite. Like I love punks, but apes are probably one of my favorites. And so I've seen conversation on both sides about the mutant apes. Like I'll tell you my personal thoughts. Like I think I like the mutant apes more than I do the regular ones. I know that's one opinion.
That before. Yeah.
But like, what is your thoughts on like? Do you think it's going to be more valuable like have a mutant ape with? You think it's valuable to have the pair on its own? Like, what are your thoughts on like that whole drop? Because I have mine, but I'd like to know yours.
Yeah, it kind of they dropped it at a weird time because every NFT their floor started dropping. I don't know. You know what triggered that? I think every time Ethereum gets close to its all-time high, NFTs like are inversely proportional, so they go back. They go, the other way.
Yeah.
So as you get Ethereum cracking that $4,000 ceiling, then the NFTs floor start dropping because people are trying to sell and cash out.
Yeah.
So the drop happened in a weird time when Ethereum started really taking off. So the mutant apes kind of what did they? I'm talking about the M1s here. Had like a floor of like 7 to 8 Ethereum, right when they dropped. And this is pretty typical. After a drop, it dips and then it'll climb back up. I think they're sitting under 5 now. But the artwork is super cool, and the concept's really awesome. That there's 3 levels, like the M1, 2s, and 3s.
Yeah.
And it's funny that the M1s look a little sloppy and like, it's an experiment gone bad. Like they're all melting everywhere and everything looks kind of crazy and psychedelic. And the M2s are a lot of the similar kind of art style, but a little more badass elements to it. Yeah. And then of course the megas are just crazy.
They're nuts.
There's only 8 of them. But I think obviously I must trust in them because I was airdropped an M2 serum, which was awesome.
Okay.
I was getting offers of 24 ETH like about a couple days after, and I didn't freaking sell it. Which
wow.
I was in the mountains when this whole thing dropped. I had sketchy cell service, so my apes are locked up on my ledger, my mutant and my regular ape, and I have the dog that matches my ape. So I couldn't drink the serum if I wanted to create an M1 or an M2. So I got dropped an M2, and 3 days later I got back, and I realized everyone had mutated their apes, like most people. And then the serum 2 prices went through the frickin' roof. Like they were up in the 25 ETH. I was getting offers all over the place, up in the mid 20s for something that was free, which is first of all, that's an insane utility to have. Just owning an ape. It's like, hey, thanks for being an ape holder. Here's $60,000. Like, what other project can you do that with? So it's just, I ended up not using it. I didn't sell it either. So I was like, I think the M2 serums in months' time are going to be more valuable than M2 apes once everyone uses up their serum. Because think of how many M1 apes there are that people, just because they got airdropped the M1 or serum or they bought it, think how many of those are, and then 5-6 months down the road when there's few M2 serums left because everyone uses them, I'll have one of them and I'll have this huge community who would do anything to mutate their ape into the next level.
Yeah.
So I think the M2 serum is going to be more valuable than the M2 apes, so I still have the serum. So what I did is I bought an M1 serum for 6.5 ETH instead.
Wow.
And then I mutated that so that I at least had one for utility purposes.
Yeah.
Ever since doing that, of course, I bought the serum at 6.5, and now you can get them for like 4. So I'm like, oh well, yeah. I can't predict these kinds of things. It'll swing back though. I don't think it's going to crash. Too many people love the art and just the utility. Yeah. Everything's down. Even the apes drop. Oh my gosh, what are they at right now? Like 30 something?
Yeah.
Floor?
Yeah. I think the only thing that hadn't dropped was punks.
What?
Let's continue. I think punks are still rising.
Punks. Damn it. Yeah. I couldn't have got one ever. I could now. Yeah. I could afford the 20th floor now, but the floor is now over 100.
That's insane.
So I could have at no stage during the punk floor could I have ever afforded it. Yeah, so the apes dropped like 15 ETH, like the OG apes, and the On One Force dropped a bunch. Everything dropped. Everything went down. So I think the mutants are just kind of along for that same ride. I think they're going to bounce back though, because it gave a lot of people a way to get into the ape community without having to own an ape. Like they could just buy the mutant ape on the secondary for way cheaper than an ape. Yeah. So, and I got the serum too. So, hopefully I can sell that for ridiculous money one day.
That was insane how they did that. And I mean, selfishly, I'm ready for like the winter to hit, so I can actually like by that time I'll have some stuff paid off where I can actually afford one. Like that's just from my own selfish. Obviously, I want them to rip. But like I'm like lower just a little bit more so I can buy in and then you can go back.
Do you have any Bored Ape stuff?
I don't. Okay. I didn't. My first actual NFT purchase was in July. So I kind of missed the boat. Like I saw, like again, I miss VFriends, I miss Bored Ape. But to be fair, at the same time though, like some of the tough lessons I told you I went through for the past 3 years is I compounded a lot of debt, and so like even if I wanted to, there was the funds were not available to like even drop like 2 ETH on one of these projects. I didn't have an extra $2 to $3 grand to spare.
Yeah, that's a lot. If you're buying into this, it's such a huge barrier to entry.
Yeah.
As an artist, I feel we're in a super, super unique and fortunate position. We can sell our way into this ridiculously restrictive, high barrier community. I think I put a total of $800 of my own money into crypto.
Yeah.
And now I'm sitting over probably $500,000 now because I'm able to sell my work. Not a lot of people can really, a lot of crypto investors can't do that kind of thing. So
no, you're right. And I mean, I think I've put in around between 600 and 1,000 is what my own money that I put into. But there's a couple of them that the one regret I did have is just, and was a really tough learning lesson, is that I owned 2 World of Women in the beginning, and I flipped 2 of them for 1.2 ETH total. But at the time that was huge. I spent $300 and I made $3,000. It's hard to not be mad at, I'm still mad at that because now the floor is at 4, 4 or 5.
I know, right?
It's insane. Only in this world can you be upset about making 1,000x profit, knowing that it could have been more.
Dude, I've done that so many times.
Yeah.
The on one force was a big mistake I made.
Yeah.
You know what project I'm talking about? The on one or the 0N one?
I do. Yeah. My friend calls it Oni. Yeah.
Oni. There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that one was a big one, a big mistake, because one of the people who had their hand in the project reached out to me before the drop and said, I can reserve you 10 of these for 1 ETH, and I'll do you want in for an ETH? I'll get you 10. And I was like, I've got burnt by Yetis, strawberries, misfits, camels, all kinds of crazy shit up to that point. So I was like, nah. I looked at the project. It was another profile pic project. And I was like, there's nothing. I don't see anything screaming out at me as being unique. Maybe I didn't look into it enough.
Yeah.
And so I passed on that for an ETH. It had 10. And then a week later, the floor is at 6 ETH. I was like, holy shit. I could have turned this around for 60 Ethereum at the minimum, assuming I got all floor value rarities,
Yeah.
So I basically said no to 60 ETH, which is insane. So I know the feeling of missing out. I'm trying to think if I've sold anything too early too.
Yeah.
I can't think of anything. So now I have diamond hands like crazy, probably to a detriment. I just don't let things go. I'm like, but it could be worth more. I could have sold that serum for 25 ETH for free. Just here's 25 ETH that I got, and use that money to buy, I don't know, a bunch of other projects that could flip things, or just keep it in Ethereum.
Or keep it in Ethereum, or pad the savings account. You know what I mean? You could there's a lot of things that I mean, this is life-changing money that we're talking about here.
Yeah, exactly. So I can feel you there. I've made some stupid mistakes, but I'm really just focusing on my own art now.
Yeah.
I'm starting to hit a tipping point, like a breakaway point. Escape velocity, if you will. Yeah. Rob, Chevy Pop. I don't know if you're familiar with him. Yeah, him picking up my first transient. I'm coining this term. Okay, I keep saying.
I saw that Twitter the other day.
It's gonna be a thing because I'm tired of explaining it in 3-4 sentences.
Yeah.
So him picking up my first transient NFT is huge because I was talking to Barat. I don't know if you know him. He's another collector. He bought my first space on SuperRare for 4 Ethereum, and I was talking to him someone offered me 2 Ethereum on both my other pieces. Should I take it? I like to be transparent with my collectors. Because I think of it as they're investors in the company, in my brand. So I want to swing things by them before I make any financial decisions, because they kind of have vested interest in my brand because they own some of my work. And then he was he's like, don't ever dip your prices because you don't want to be known for taking less than what your floor is. And you can take a little less. If your floor is 4 ETH and then you get an offer for 3.5, sure, that's fine.
Right.
But not 2 or 1 ETH when your floor is 4.
Right.
And then he also said, you want a collector that has diamond hands, willing to hold on to your piece and also shill and support your work and spread the word. And that's exactly what Rob is all about. As soon as he bought my piece, he started DMing me. He's like, dude, we just formed the dream team. Like, I'm going to make sure that this next drop that you do on here gets, because he feels like he got this piece for a steal. And Jacob Briglin also said something about that on one of the tweets. And then Rob responded being like, yeah, I got this for a steal, but I'm going to make sure as hell make sure that Ben's next piece goes for well over 20 ETH. So I'm like, oh my God. I couldn't have scored a better collector. Like, he's going to chill the hell out of this next drop. And the bidder that he beat out in the auction, OpenSea glitched for him.
Oh my God.
I went to their Discord and chewed them out for a while. I was pretty pissed.
Yeah.
I'm fortunate to have Rob as a collector, and he bought it for 7 ETH, which is nothing to sneeze at, right?
Right.
Like, my mom thought I was crazy. I was like, yeah, I sold that art piece for 27 grand. She's like, excuse me, what? Like, even saying it out loud sounds so funny. Like, I could put that on an art CV now, an artist CV. Like, yeah, I sell artwork. Some of my pieces go for $27,000. Like, that sounds ridiculous.
Insane.
So OpenSea glitched on him in the last 5 minutes of the auction. He said that the entire time OpenSea, he was refreshing. The whole time OpenSea said he was the top bidder. It never updated.
Wow.
And then the auction ended, and he refreshed, and it just like glitched and like snapped to the reality of him losing, and said Chevy Pop was the owner. And he DM'd me. He's like, "What the heck? Did you like cancel the auction and do a private sale?" And I was like, "No, not at all." Like, he thought I was doing something snaky on the other side.
Yeah.
And I was like, "No, we were in a Twitter space with like 50 people. Everyone was live counting down the auction. We were all watching it." And turns out OpenSea was glitching out at the end of the auction and wasn't updating for him. So he's coming in for this second piece with such
a chip on his
like
shoulder.
Diligence. Yeah. And like a hunger. He's like, all right, well, OpenSea sucks. I was like, yeah, he's like, I was willing to take this to double 7. He's like, 15 ETH was my cap. And then Rob Chevy Pop also said he was willing to go to like 14 ETH. So it could have, OpenSea screwed it out of like doubling the value of it, which really sucks.
Yeah.
But, you know, I can't complain about a good sale, but it does suck that it glitched out when it could have been a whole different story. So he's like, yeah, when that second piece drops, I want you to let me know the link, because there's no way in hell I'm letting this one go. So I have someone who's like super hungry for it. And I have Chevy Pop, who's going to be pushing the hell out of this next piece. And it's just a super badass piece. Are people going to be viewing this? Like, what's the time frame? Like the next week, 2 weeks?
Yeah, so it's going to be so I'm dropping. So because I'm trying to take as much time as I can, because it's my week break in between jobs.
Right.
But so this one will probably not this Monday, but the following Monday is when this one will drop.
All right, so you're free. I'm going to show you a sneak peek. You're like one of 2 people to see this.
Oh, wow.
I'm going to try to show it on this stupid camera. I'll see how this looks. So I tweeted about it, right? It's this image. Ooh, that looks, my camera's doing horrible things with the color.
It is.
Can I screen share? I don't know how that would work.
Yeah, you can screen share. If you pulled it up on, is it only on your phone or is it on your computer?
I can put it on my computer.
Yeah. If you did, then you can.
You don't have to add this either. This is just us, like.
Yeah, and I can if I need to, I can just let me know when this I'll let you know when this drops, and you let me know whether I need to edit it out or not.
Oh yeah. No, at this point we're just shooting the shit here. Let me let me share my screen here, and then I can stop sharing when I'm done.
Yeah.
Is it at all working, or is it still thinking?
It's still thinking. I don't see anything yet.
That's weird. Totally said that it share. It's just like denying. Well, it's not denying, but it's not doing anything.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's weird. Yeah, I click the screen and I say share entire screen, and then I hit the share button, and then it just brings me back to
interesting.
Our little home page here.
Okay, yeah, because like it's weird that like, hold on, I'm just gonna. Like it screen shared that. You see, that's okay. Interesting.
Yeah, what the heck is going on here? Window. Finder? Maybe I can share. Maybe open it up first, and then I can share it. Quick time. Nothing.
Nothing. Yeah. I wonder if it's a. I wonder if it's a. Like, I hate to say it, but I wonder if it's a Mac. I don't. That shouldn't make a difference though.
Yeah, that is weird. Anyways.
Well, I saw a pixelated version.
Yeah, but you can see the horrible version here. This is that daytime shot.
Oh, actually,
the glare, right? Obviously, in the pink sky. Does it look all pink and gross? It looks really gross on my end. But here's what it does. So this is the sunset version, and then it's going to fade into a northern lights, and then it fades into a sunrise.
I'm a huge fan of the northern lights.
Yeah, so it's a famous Iceland waterfall, and it's looking so good. Not on that.
Right.
But.
That's insane, man.
So I'm excited to drop that one. And have Northern Lights as the nighttime version.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, are you going to be? Is this kind of like what you're doing right now? Is this kind of going to be the norm going forward, where it's like this? It's this type of like, you say transient? Is that the?
Yeah. They call it transient NFTs. So like.
Okay.
Transient, or I call it transient NFTs. So transient meaning like fleeting, changing with time. That's literally what it quite literally means, changing with time, fleeting, non-permanent, evolving. So in engineering, a transient equation or a transient variable means something that's dependent on time. So that's kind of where the name came from.
Gotcha.
So we're just going to call them TNFTs because it's catchy.
There you go, man. Everyone likes acronyms.
Yeah, right. And then, the gallery on OpenSea, or technically it's a collection, right? But everyone's doing collections right now in photography, and I didn't want to get confused with doing a collection because I will probably never do a collection. I'd rather just release my pieces one by one.
Yeah.
I don't want to drop my prices and do one of ones, like 30 one of ones for like 0.5 or less Ethereum.
Yeah.
So I was being really careful with the wording, and OpenSea calls it a collection, but I called it a transient gallery. So I have these series, and then each one is a series. So this one's the 24 series, so ones that do like the 24-hour cycles. And then those are going to live within the transient gallery that's on OpenSea, which is technically the collection, but yeah.
Gotcha.
I have a lot of opinions about collections, good and bad.
I can tell.
What?
I can tell the body language started shifting and the tone started changing.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm trying not to make any enemies, but
yeah,
because everything that I say is like an opinion. And collections have done amazing things for the space, like these photography collections. They just blew up out of nowhere. You know what I'm talking about?
Yep.
Like everyone's doing a collection now. Which kind of goes along the point you said earlier, where you don't want to just follow. You don't want to be a sheep in the space. Not that everyone's being a sheep,
right?
But yeah, you do something like someone does a collection, which is really unique idea to begin with. I think it was like a month ago. So I did like a 1 of 100 edition drop just to make something accessible and attainable for anyone who wants to just own a piece of my work.
Yeah,
and
that was the first piece of your work that I bought because it was like right now I'm still locked into a certain amount of Ethereum, and that was something I was able to afford.
That's awesome, man. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, so that as soon as I dropped that, the next morning I woke up and like 100 more people were doing 1 of 50s, 1 of 100s, and that's not wasn't my intention because a lot of people I haven't even sold out. Like the plan was I wasn't planning to sell out right away. Like it's 100 pieces. It's gonna take a while.
Yeah.
I think 2 of them go like every day, which is still really fast for something like that.
Yeah.
But a lot of people did it, and they ended up with selling like maybe 10 of 50 or 10 of 100, and now they're stuck with this thing they can't really burn. And yeah, so it kind of, in a weird way, backfired against the space.
Yeah.
And so then someone came out with the idea of like, I'm going to do 1 of 1s, but a collection of 50, but each one's going to be a 1 of 1. I'm going to price it a lot lower. This was after Vince. You know Vince Cactus? I don't know if you remember when.
No, I don't.
He was the guy that was in the space buying people's art for way higher than most people thought they were valued. There's this whole the Vince days. And so new collectors were coming in and being like, 5 ETH floor photography is ridiculous. You guys should be selling these less than a half. And so someone, I don't even remember who did the first collection, but someone came out with the idea, and it was like revolutionary at the time, and it sold out immediately, and everyone saw that. And then just like the last time, the next 2 days, like everyone was announcing their collections. Like, I'm coming out with a 30 or a 50 piece collection. And
yeah.
And I remember when I first started seeing that, talking to some friends in the back channel, being like, this is cool to see everyone selling out, and it's obviously getting a lot of hype for photography. This is like the silver lining to it.
Right.
Or like the good side, the pros. A lot of new collectors. A lot of traffic and secondary sales with photography, which brings more collectors in, and it definitely pushed us to the forefront of the NFT space. Then the downside is like equally negative as the good side is positive. You're saturating the space now with one-of-one photographs, which is going to drive the overall price down for one-of-one photography. So it's going to be harder and harder to sell one-of-ones for the 5 ETH floor that they used to be worth, because now collectors are going to be, you know, they're like, well, these amazing collections are coming out where they're selling one-of-ones for like 0.5, 0.2, whatever, down in that range. And then the second thing is I see a lot of artists doing collections and not selling out, and that can be really damaging to your brand. So they see everyone else selling out, and they do a collection. And even really good photographers have dropped collections, and they are still sitting there with like 10 out of 50 sold.
Right.
So now you are devaluing photography a little more by showing new collectors like photography's not selling out in these collections, so they might think, oh, it must not be a desirable art medium.
Yeah.
So that's the other downside. So you get a saturation, a lowering of prices for one-of-ones, and you get some potential photography reputation damage from ones that are unsold. And I don't know. I think it's going to backfire in the next couple months because people are dropping them at alarming rates. It's ridiculous. Really? And the other thing is collectors are going to kind of end up shooting themselves in the foot, I think. Or sorry, creators. I don't want to say, I don't know. Some people are doing them for cash grabby reasons. And then others actually have really good collections.
Yeah.
But I see collections, like people are getting, you know, it's hard not to get desperate and you want a sale. So I see some collections coming out being like, these are my 50 best pieces in my entire gallery. I'm selling them all at once for like 0.25 Ethereum each. It's like, what are you going to do when that sells? Like, they sell out usually. Sometimes they don't, though. So there's all your best pieces sold out for 10, 15 ETH. Like, that's a big sale.
Yeah.
But now you're out of your best pieces. And so the next collection they're going to do, because everyone wants that next dopamine hit. I mean, this space is like a drug. It really is.
Yeah.
So they want the next dopamine hit, and I've seen it happen already. So then they release another collection, but the quality's less. It's like their B-roll shots. But then they want another one, and then it's their C-roll shots. And it just, the quality goes down because they started with their best stuff.
Gotcha.
And they're shooting themselves in the foot because they're running out of photos to post. And they keep dropping collections way too soon from the last one selling out. So then their secondary sales are dropping out. It's like, why would you buy on secondary if they're going to drop another collection in another week?
Right.
Anyways, I could go on and on about that. And in a lot of ways, I think it's an unpopular opinion, but I think it's one of those things that we'll see what I'm talking about in like a couple months.
Yeah. I mean, but something that you mentioned in that though, like sparked a curiosity is like, you know, because it's I think a lot of the speculative aspect about crypto in general is a lot of like what drives that like that impatience and that like quick cash grab kind of mentality, because you don't know if Ethereum's going to go to zero tomorrow. I mean, there's a pretty strong conviction that it won't, but we're not living in Candyland to say that that's not a possibility. You know,
right.
There could be some like massive regulation by the government that like, you know, makes it plummet, and we could all, you know, go back to like what we were doing before. And that's like a really, like, I don't really want to think about that, but like, that's just a reality that it is, you can't like ignore that. but something that you mentioned uh, is that like it's like the timing of the drops. It's like, like if you do it like a week, like it. So, in your opinion, like if they did drops, but the drops were like until they sold out, or and if it was like every 6 months, if it was like they did 2 drops a year, you know what I mean, like that.
Mm-hmm.
To me, that would feel a little bit more authentic in the space versus just doing like once a week and like having that like you just start degrading the market.
Yeah, and that's what I see happening. I think.
Yeah.
Less and less time between people's collections that are selling out. Some people are crushing it, and they're bringing so much good, positive attention to the photography space.
Right.
So it's just hard to say in the whole. I'd be curious what Gary Vee would think about all this.
Yeah.
It's hard to say in a high level view, and in its entirety, is it more bad than good, or vice versa?
Yeah.
Because you got a lot of new collectors, and photography is being valued high as an art form, finally being appreciated as an art form.
Mm-hmm.
Then on the downside, you're saturating the space. Collectors are dumping their best work into a collection, some of them not selling out. It's making it harder for those of us who intend to slow release and intentionally, with like a lot of intention, one piece at a time.
Yep.
Also, there's this whole thing about not following what everyone else is doing, which I see a lot of. Like something will happen. Someone will do a piece that works or a collection that works. And then the next morning, everyone and their mother's doing the same thing. Like that's just like how this space works.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, I mean, I wanted to do a collection. And I'm glad I didn't. First of all, I don't have the kind of breadth of work some of these people do. Like each one of my photographs takes about 6 hours to edit. And being a full-time engineer and a dad, I don't have the time now. I can't just I have probably 30 photos left that I would be comfortable minting as a one of one, if even that. So I'm forced into thinking of something else to do different. That's also something that I've kind of just like. It's my personality. Like when I go to national parks or famous photography spots, how do I shoot the same scene but in a really unique way?
Right.
I find those fun challenges. And so I kind of took that same mindset into the NFT space. How do I do something that's unique, that hasn't been done before? And then how do I do it in such a way where it's actually really hard to do so that people can't just come in and copy me the next day after I drop it, if that makes sense?
No, it does. It does.
So I did that initially with parallax animations, which take like 30 hours a piece. I trained myself and taught myself how to, I don't know if you know what I'm talking about.
No, I don't. I don't.
Yeah, like turning a still photograph into a moving, living image based on one photograph, no video footage or anything.
You know what? I do know that because my designer that did all my Twitch branding, or all the graphics, like he did a lot of animations, whether it's from animated emotes or like animated, like there's certain parts of like my screens that were animated, but there was no, because any project that I paid him for, that I commissioned him for, that had any sort of animation along that front was like triple the amount of time it takes of what he normally does for like a still image. Yeah,
they take a long time.
Yeah.
So I figured out a way, and I kind of taught myself how to take a still image and turn it into a living like world. I don't know, you'd have to, if you went to my foundation, you'd see what I'm talking about. I've got 2 pieces on there. I wish I could screen share, but yeah, apparently. I think it might be Brave. I use Brave browser, and it might be blocking me from screen sharing.
I've been using that a lot more on my phone.
Right. I'm actually going to see if it lets me now that I turned off the pop-up blocker. Does it work? Nope, still doesn't work.
All right, so I actually, since it is working for me, let's pull up.
Yeah, so you see that green piece right there, Keeper of the North?
Yeah.
So if you full screen it, we'll see if it even... Foundation's been kind of lacking on their... So this is a single photograph the northern light, everything was originally just a still photograph. And I used After Effects to move the northern lights, to make the ripples and the reflection, and to generate that lighthouse.
Wow.
And then all that light on the foreground you see there when it swings in front of the lighthouse, that's all separate Photoshop layers where I painted in the light, and then I just faded each layer into one another in keyframes. So this is zero video footage, zero CGI. It's all based on a single image.
Wow.
So I started doing stuff like that to separate myself from the pack. And then if you go back and look at the Observer, it's a different version. It's the one right next to it.
Yep.
So this is also a parallax. This is all based on one image. And I separated the layers, and I use Z depth and 3D camera and focal length to make it look like drone footage.
Wow. It almost looks like it's out of a video game.
Yeah, and it's all done with one photo. Zero video footage, zero CGI.
Wow.
So that's kind of the stuff I was getting into to separate myself from the pack early on.
Yeah. I like that.
Yeah, see that guy Cactux? It's like bought like almost every single one of my pieces. If you scroll up, it's like he's Cactux, like it's crazy.
Yeah. Is it
that was animated too? That waterfall. That's based on a still image. That's no video footage in there either. It's just on an infinite loop. So you can take photographs and you can make them moving with software. So that's kind of what I did. But yeah, that was kind of how I really pulled away from the pack early on and established a name for myself.
Yeah.
And then
incredible.
Recently the way I've been doing that is the living photographs.
Yeah.
So every time I do something unique, I want to make sure that it sounds super, super dumb and arrogant and everything, which is like against my core personality, because I'm usually hate talking about myself in that light. But whenever I do something unique, I like to do it in a way that other people can't do right away. I make it really hard so that people can't just copy me the next day.
Yeah.
And that's one of the key concepts I've learned from all the entrepreneurial books I've read and business podcasts and entrepreneurial podcasts and startup companies that I've listened to. Mm-hmm. Like, do something different and do it different in a way that's hard for others to copy. That's how you make a good product, essentially.
Yeah. Because people that's what people will pay for. Like people will like pay for products all day long, but like when you have a product that stands out, like you don't even have to like worry about asking for more money. People are just going to pay it because people inherently want something different every single time. It's like that dopamine hit, especially in the NFT space, like that fresh dopamine hit. I'm not gonna that's like what prompted this whole podcast was when I saw that transient piece that you put. That I'm just like, this is incredible. Right. I've never seen this before. Like, this is incredible. And I love that you shared it so much. Number one, just because I think it's incredibly unique. And it's the first time don't know if it's ever been done before, but it's the first time I've ever seen it.
It's been done in the
photography space.
It hasn't been done the way I've done it.
Right.
It's been done before using ArtSync, which I talked about in the Twitter space.
Yeah.
Because someone's like, "Oh, did you use ArtSync for this?" Or this? "Oh, I've seen something. You can do the same thing on ArtSync." I'm like, "Nah, you can't actually." It maybe looks like you can, but the way the ArtSync works, it's super limited. It only snaps to the photograph at two times of the day. So like 6 a.m. and 6 p.m. It doesn't change time based on the time of year or track the actual sunrise times. It's just like your Apple desktop, those screensavers I have. So at 6 p.m., it just changes to the night version.
Right.
And I was like, no, it can be better than that. I want something that changes based on sunset times around the world, longitude, latitude, time of year, crossfading at the speed that the sun actually sets. So it's the first of its kind in that sense. And it's never been done in landscape photography. I can say that for certain. So that's kind of my obsession right now, is doing those pieces.
Yeah. And I think that and just to like give some context around this as well, is like, this is one of the reasons why the NFT scene is so popular is that like you can actually prove, like on a public immutable ledger that this was the first time this was actually done. Like, when you look at like collectibles and art and sports cards, you kind of have to just go with the trust me, bro, like mentality.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like people can lie, people like have an incentive to lie. There's too much room for humans to be their natural selves. You're like you know what I mean? Like where there's like I wouldn't say natural self, but like there's that side that every human does have. And when you have a motivation to like exploit something, not to say that no one ever doesn't have those thoughts, but like it's more likely to happen than when you can just say like, hey, here it is, and this can never be changed or altered,
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah. So just to kind of like for the right click save asers and the JPEG, just that is one of the reasons why like there is so much attention towards the space, is because things can actually be proven as a one of one. Like digital scarcity can actually be created, and you can prove that flex that you were the first one to do it like this in this space with all these different attributes to it. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. It's awesome to have that too.
Yeah.
That's why I was hurrying this project up, because I wanted to be the first in a weird, egocentric way. I don't even know what you'd call it, but it's man, being first is a big deal in a space like this.
It's a huge deal with how fast innovation moves here, Yeah.
So I caught wind that other photographers were in parallel, kind of connecting the dots. Like, why aren't we doing, like, you can make a piece that like lives. Like, I don't think they knew how to do it, but I heard people talking about it in Twitter spaces, being like, oh, I have this piece that like seasonally, maybe I could take it the same spot, winter, summer, spring, and fall, and then have it change based on time of year. And I was hearing this and I was like, oh shit, it's starting to like buzz around. Like, I need to get this shit out, because I've been working on this for like the last 2 months with my good friend Marco. So that last 2 weeks, we had some late nights getting all the bugs worked out. We're like, we need to release this soon before someone beats us to it.
Yeah, no doubt, man.
So I got it out. It sold successfully to a really good collector through a bidding war, which is everything you could ever hope for.
Right.
Bidding wars are a big deal.
Yeah.
It's nice to have one collector buy it. But if you have a bidding war, then you can at least guarantee that other collectors who lost are going to be trying for that second one.
Exactly.
And it shows that your piece is sought after, and it went to one of the best collectors I could have had it go to, who's here to support the efforts. And SuperRare can't even handle this kind of NFT yet. So we're like really pushing the boundaries. So we were forced to do it on OpenSea. And that OpenSea is great, but I have a SuperRare account. It would have been perfect to do this on SuperRare.
I was kind of wondering why it was on OpenSea and it wasn't on SuperRare. A
lot of people were asking. I think I tweeted like 4 times. Like, I was like, I've said this and I'll say it again just so people know, because not everyone sees your tweets.
Right.
But I'd be like, this is on OpenSea because they're the only platform that can display the type of metadata that makes this kind of piece even possible in the first place. That's why it's on OpenSea.
That's incredible.
I called the dev team and had a talk with them at SuperRare, trying to beg them, being like, you guys have to, like, this is going to be huge. Like, just believe me. Even though I may not have believed it myself. I was trying to sell it that way. I was like, this is going to be huge. It's going to create a whole wave in the market. People are going to start wanting to do this stuff. Custom smart contracts are the way of the future. And they were just like, oh, maybe one day we'll get to displaying HTML metadata, but right now we have other things to focus on. I was like, oh my gosh, really? Well, so they wouldn't work with me. And I had to go with OpenSea. And even though I went with OpenSea, there were challenges. Like, you can't expand the iframe, or like the iframe is what HTML displays in. So if you were to go to that piece on OpenSea, you'll notice if you click on it, you can't expand it.
Gotcha.
You know how you click on a piece, it brings it up in that pop-up window?
Yeah.
It doesn't work with this because they don't have the support to do it. So easy to do on their end. It would take their devs like less than an hour to incorporate that. And then, so we had to get creative and put a link in the description that's a hyperlink that opens it in a new tab.
Yeah.
The cover image can't display the HTML, so we had to use a stand-in cover image, which is what that clock is with the 4 pieces.
Yeah.
So there were a lot of workarounds that we had to do, and I think that's just part of pushing the boundaries.
I was literally just about to say that, like, if you're doing something that no one else has done, like, and trying to make that as a use case, like if you're trying to convince people to, like, you know, adapt to that when it hasn't been done before, that's the challenge of doing that. It hasn't been done. It's going to be sick. Turned out to be really great, but from a business perspective, companies have to, like, they have so many things that they're prioritizing, and God bless OpenSea, man. Like I'm sure, like they probably can't hire fast enough for people that actually know what they're doing. You know,
it's a good platform.
It is.
They're here to stay for sure.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I think Rob Chevy Pop, the guy who bought the first piece, he immediately tagged SuperRare, and he's like, "Hey, SuperRare." Like, he knows some people on the inside. He's like, we need to talk. You need to get this working so Ben Strauss can put his stuff on that platform.
Yeah.
He's like, this is the future. So I was like, that's the best collector to have. Someone that like hustles for you. It's just like, that's awesome.
Yeah, man.
So I'm hoping they get their shit together. And it's really knowing what it takes. It's not that much. They just need to be able to point towards HTML metadata. That's it. It's not a huge, like, overhaul in their whole website.
Gotcha.
It's something they could definitely get in fairly soon. So yeah, there's that. And then digital displays, all the ones on the market can't display this piece either.
Really?
Yep.
Wow.
We've tested most all of them, including the token frame, which was our highest hope because they connect to your wallet.
Yeah.
Can't do it. It just loads nothing. It's just a question mark.
Pain.
So I was like, okay, so we're ahead of that as well. So a little teaser of what's coming. We're actually building our own custom displays to display this stuff to send to collectors.
Dude, so like when they buy this NFT, like the frame comes with it? Is that like
they're gonna get a 16 by 20 ish sized, like I don't know, probably like a 32-inch sized monitor.
Yeah.
Ultra thin with a custom programmed Raspberry Pi encased on the back, so it'll mount on the wall like a little float mount, and it'll connect to the Wi-Fi and be able to display HTML. So we're going to make custom displays to send to the collectors, essentially is what we're doing right now. We're working on that. We're engineers, so we do this stuff all the time.
So it's not too far of a stretch.
So that's another utility, is we're just going to come up, it's like, all right, fine, so we'll convince the platforms to fix their stuff or like support our stuff, and then on top of that we're going to come up with our own line of digital displays because no one else can display this,
right? And you're gonna drive, that's like part of like what drives competition, you know what I mean? Like, real quick, hold on, that's like what drives competition, you know what I mean? Like, it just, when you're able to do that, then like they're gonna be like, oh shit, like we need to do this, you know what I mean? And you're just gonna drive the market. It's almost like, the way I look at it is like the way Elon Musk did it with the electric car. Like, you're not trying to, like, there's going to be no clear winner. Like, his whole motive in the beginning when he started that was to, like, drive innovation in the electric car space. Like, that's consistently what he does. They're doing things that are always so different, and it's not to, like, win, although he is going to win number one because it's a great product and people love Elon. I love Elon. He's a meme lord, and he's incredibly intelligent at what he does. But you look at the electric car market and where it's come since that has come out, and since Tesla has been pushing all of the innovations, it allows other companies to take note. Like, man, like we need to do this. Like, because people are really liking it.
Right.
You know, risk takers. Like, you just got to do something that's different than the rest of the crowd, and then the crowd will follow, and then the mass adoption will start coming in. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I think it's crazy to be that person kind of trailblazing this. I never thought. No matter how much success I think you get in this space, you always just feel, I'm going to use my own words, you always feel like a tiny baby in that in that genre. Like, I always feel like the Ben Strauss that has 0 followers and no one knows who the hell I am. Like, that's still kind of my mindset. But then I hear other people talk in spaces where I'll join a space and they'll immediately invite me onto the stage and just gas me up for 20 minutes. Talking about like how I'm a legend and a pioneer and one of the first, and everyone's following what I'm doing, and I'm like, this is crazy to hear this kind of stuff. Cool. That's not how I think about it. But yeah, if you're gonna do something different, do it in a hard way. Number one. Also, if you butt up against technological limitations, then instead of waiting for people to figure it out, freaking build it yourself if you can. That was our mentality behind the display. We're like, all right, well, people are spending 20, 30 grand on our pieces, we're not going to wait for Token Frame to get their stuff together. We're going to build our own frame and send it to them.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely.
And and then just bully SuperRare into getting my work supported on their platform. That's the next step. And it helps to have Rob on my side. And I think after this next piece goes on OpenSea for, I mean, who knows? I'm not going to try to have expectations, but
right.
If it goes for over 20 ETH or whatever, it's like, all right, guys, what's 15% of 20 ETH that you just missed out on commission because you didn't have this support on your platform?
Right.
I'm doing the calculation right now because head math, even though I'm an engineer, is not a strength. So 3 ETH. So they're missing out on $12,000. Do you think it really costs $12,000 to display an iframe or just be able to link metadata or HTML? I don't know much about software development costs, but I have a feeling it's worth it for them.
Well, you keep multiplying it by however many pieces you drop, then the costs keep adding up. So,
and it's on SuperRare. I had a lot of collectors say that had it been on SuperRare, they think that it would have gone well over 20 ETH, this first piece.
Oh, 100%.
It was because it was on OpenSea that it wasn't received as highly, even though I'm a SuperRare approved artist.
Yeah.
They're like, I think it's because it was on OpenSea that you had a hard time getting the auction to kick off right away. And I was like, maybe. It's crazy to think that, but platforms have an impact.
It all makes a difference. I mean, perception's everything, perception's everything. But want to start wrapping things up, man. I think it's a good note to end on. We've been going at this for about 2 hours.
Yeah, man. Sorry that I can talk about this stuff forever. It's fun.
Yeah, man. I want to, I know I want to respect the time with the kid, and I love that, man.
He's doing good. He's actually been pretty legit today.
He has,
what do you
man.
think, Bear? Have you been doing good? Yeah. I'm surprised. He was taking a nap through most of it and wasn't too much of a hassle. Anyways, we'll wrap it up.
Yeah, man. Because I know this is probably going to be first of many, whether it's Twitter Spaces, whether it's another podcast. Like, I'd love to have you on, especially as you evolve, especially as I have a few things like I want to do, but I'm still in this heavily right now it's podcasting, but there's a lot of ideas that I have, and I'm just like doing everything I can to like learn from everyone that I'm in. I'm just like, you got to build a community. You got to make connections first before you really like do something meaningful in the space.
Right.
So I'd love to have you on again soon because this was fantastic, man. I love how like we probably went in 30 different directions with this. So I think people are going to get a lot of value out of it. But to kind of give you some gas or give you a plug, like if you want people to find you, where's the place where you're the most active, and where would you like people to look for your work?
Yeah, well, it used to be Instagram was most active, but moved to Twitter because of NFTs, and the community is just badass.
Yeah.
So it would be Twitter at Ben Strauss Photo. I have a link tree in my bio that also takes to my Instagram, and then to find my work, if you want to like see my work, Twitter's not a very good space yet for viewing work. I think they will introduce a gallery tab though that displays your artwork like Instagram, but Instagram's a good place to just peruse through the work, or my website. That's benstraussphotography.com. And for anyone who actually wants to learn how to process images like I do, I have an entire subscription base. It's also another first that I've never seen done before.
Sick.
I built a Netflix into my website that I load every edit of every photo onto that website. It's kind of like a Patreon, but I didn't want to pay them, so I just made my own. That's on my website, and it's called The Vault. So yeah, those are probably the top places right now.
Sick, man.
As of right now, I'm sold out. I have 0 NFTs for sale, other than my 1 of 100, which is quickly coming to an end, actually.
Yeah. Last I checked, there was like 65 owners.
Yeah, it's getting up there.
Something like that.
Probably still around there, yeah.
Yeah. That was my the color of the Rockies. I think there's 65 owners, so there's 35 left. So
it's steadily going. So I wasn't trying to sell out of that. That's just to give people an option to get something, but I think it'll sell out quick. But so that's the only thing I have available right now, which is good. Man. Creates demand. But I'll be dropping my next piece tomorrow. But for everyone who's listening to this, that'll be
well gone.
Well, hopefully, it might still be there. Who knows? Oh yeah. And then the next transient piece is dropping in a week, probably.
Dude,
So
that's sick, man.
I'm excited for that one.
Hell yeah. This has been good, man. Ben, yeah, dude, thank you for coming on such a whim. I think I DM'd you on Thursday or Friday, and then we did this on Sunday. I like how fast that moves, and again, thanks for coming on, man. This has been a treat.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
Taking every opportunity to talk about this space.
Yeah, I mean, my last episode was with Jimmy.eth, and he's just like, I don't understand this like barrier to entry that some people have. It's just like, dude, I like talking about NFTs. You like talking about NFTs. We're just gonna do it on a podcast.
Yeah,
it's pretty sick, man. But dude, I'll let you get to it, and Ben, you have a great rest of your day, man.
Yeah, you as well. Take care.
Right. Yep. All right. Y'all, thank you so much for tuning into this week's episode of the Boonified Experience podcast. We will be back next Friday with another brand new episode. If you like this episode, and if this episode gave you value, or if a multitude of episodes gave you value, please go ahead and go to my website, www.boonified.com, and leave a 5-star review. Also, I'd like to know why. That shit makes me really happy. It makes me warm inside. I would greatly appreciate that. Plus, it also helps with the discoverability of this podcast, and gets it into the ears of many more people who need to hear it. If you're looking for even more access or even more benefits, we do have an exclusive Patreon channel. We have everything from early release episodes. We also have custom merch, also access to ask my guests questions on the episode before they air, and much, much more. So if you're interested in that, that is also on my website, boonified.com. They're on the right-hand column. They're on the right-hand side. There's a column with a link to support my Patreon channel. I hope to see you there. And until next week, y'all have a good one.